back with another video. This is Authentically Tiffany, and I am just going to pick up where I left off from the previous video. Around 10 or 11 years old, this is kind of embarrassing to say, but you know, my sisters and I finally had a actual real bed to sleep in. Before that, previously, we didn't have beds. We had mattresses that we slept on the floor with, and my mattress that I had was very old, and the springs in the mattress was coming through the mattress, so it was like little, you know, a spring. It's very sharp. Like, we used to jump on these mattresses, so the springs would come up out the mattress. And one night I was sleeping, I can't remember how old I was. I think I was maybe 8 or so. I was sleeping and I must have moved a certain way, because in these mattresses, since the springs did come up in the mattress, you had to sit or like not move a certain way for these springs not to come up out the mattress. So I was sleeping one day and I must have moved in a direction to where the spring came up out the mattress, and the spring was very, very sharp, and it went through my thigh on my leg, and it got stuck. It scraped my thigh and got stuck in my leg, and I still have that scar today. But anyways, around like 10 or 11 years old is when we first got our an actual bed to sleep in, like a twin size bed for all three of us to sleep in. Not all three of us in one bed, but all three of us had, you know, our first beds. And yeah, so that's kind of embarrassing to say, but you know, I never even got a new bed after that until I was like in my early 20s. I got a new bed when I actually moved out on my own and got an apartment. I took that bed over there, but then I got a new bed. So it wasn't until like my early 20s when I actually got an actual new bed for myself. But yeah, just kind of wanted to put that out there. So I'm gonna fast forward to my teenage years, around like 14, 15 years old. Before I get in to this, I kind of want to put this out there. For those of you who can relate, I'm not really sure if you can or not, but you know, I was raised in a household to where my mother, as you all can kind of know right now, the issues that I have growing up is mainly solely with my mother. I don't know if you guys can relate to having either a manipulative, narcissistic type of parent. That is what my mother is. So, you know, we were also subjected to a lot of manipulative and narcissistic ways, tendencies. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out there before I jump into the teenage years. So around 14 years old or so, my parents, their marriage started to crumble, and my dad started sleeping on the couch and my mother had the room. My mom started to go into like a deep depression. So they did finally divorce, and I was 14, almost 15 years old. And you know, around that time, like I said, my mother was very depressed, and she was always in her room. Like, she would from what I can recall and remember, she was always in her room. She never left her room. She would come out, of course, to fix us something to eat or something like that, but she was always in her room. She cut off all her hair, and that's one thing I never really got either, with females, with women in general. When they seem to go through something with their significant other, either, their husband or a boyfriend or whatever, whenever it's like a breakup, women seem to cut off their hair or change something about themselves. It's very weird. I never got the psychology behind that, of cutting off your hair, because that's not the first person I know that has done that. I've known a few females who have just cut off all their hair, and it's just very, very weird to me. But yes, she did cut off all her hair, and it was so embarrassing. I remember being embarrassed about it because it was like a boy cut. It was very, very, very short. She also started to, which I don't even know if she knows that we know that what she was doing, but she started to eat food and then throw it up. She would always eat and throw up, and she did this for years. She suffered a lot emotionally going through that phase of her life, which is understandable, as I have also gone through a divorce, so I understand the emotions behind that. At that time, when my parents split, we only had one car. So when my father left the home, he took the car with him. So, and it wasn't even, I don't even think it was his car. I think it was like a rental car, like a company car, from where he worked. But he did take that with him, and then, we were left with no car for quite some time. And around that time, we also stopped going to the church, the Kingdom Hall is what Jehovah's Witnesses call it. So we stopped going there, first because we didn't have a car to get there, and then second, my mom she had her own issues that she was going through with the church, and she didn't want to go anymore. And so she gave us an option to either we could still keep going, or we didn't have to. So, of course, being teenagers, we're not going to go. So we stopped going. And ultimately, that kind of changed a lot of things. Me personally, I thought when my parents split that, unfortunately, for me to say, but this is true life. So when they split, I automatically thought life was going to be a little easier, less strict. As we grew up, as I told you before, we grew up very in a strict household. So when they split, I was kind of like relieved, because I thought, okay, now everything won't be so strict. Which it wasn't. With us not being Jehovah's Witnesses anymore, we were able to have friends that weren't Jehovah's Witnesses. We finally were able to start making friends in school and going to their homes, and that changed. That was a big deal for us then, to be able to associate with the people that we wanted to associate with, and have relationships with them outside of the Jehovah's Witness paradigm here. My parents split. My father kind of went MIA for a while. And when I say MIA, we knew where he was. We knew where he was staying. He just didn't call. So I remember my mom getting phone calls from my father, or she would call him, and I remember hearing the conversations of her, speaking about certain things, and then she would always ask him, when is he going to call and speak to us? Like, when is he going to call us? and we just never got that phone call. It was just, he just never called. So, you know, as children, you don't really think that stuff like that affects you. Because at the time, I really didn't think it affected me. I was just like, oh, okay, he didn't call, he doesn't call. But it does, you know, from going from having a father in the home and seeing him every day, and then when the dynamic changes, he leaves the home, you would expect to have that communication still. And we didn't get that. We didn't get the communication. We didn't get the phone calls. We didn't have him come by. It wasn't him coming by. And I think partly the reason as well, my mother and father had were very, well, she was very nasty to him. So the relationship between them two were not good at all. So which in turn, I think made my father stay away. And I'm not giving excuses to him at all. But I know my mother. So I know he was trying to avoid that at all costs. So, and I think we just got the brunt end of it, you know? So, you know, with him being out of the house, it was kind of hard on my mom financially. My mom didn't have a job for a long time. She didn't really work. And when she did work, she did work with my father for a bit, and then with this divorce, she had to actually, you know, work. So she was working at the time, but it wasn't enough to cover the bills. And I think our rent had gone up on the apartment, and she just couldn't afford it. So, you know, around this time, again, we're like 14 and 15 years old. Yeah, because I had just started high school. So I started high school, and I just remember coming home one day, and she said that we were going to move in with a friend that she had befriended when she was a Jehovah's Witness. She was going to move in with, we were going to move in with this woman. So that's what we did. We picked up and we left and moved in with this friend of hers, and the friend had a 3-bedroom house, but she had 2 boys. One of them was a little bit older than me, like a year or 2 older than me, and then she had a younger son. So when we moved into this house, one of the younger son gave up his room and gave it to me and my sisters and my mom. So there's 4 of us that were sleeping in this room. And I think I know my mom slept on the floor, and then I don't know if one of us slept on the floor and 2 of us had the bed. I don't know. It was just a weird situation. And the whole situation was kind of weird. I bring up this because my mother, everywhere she goes, there's drama. If there's no drama, it's created by her. So her, unbeknownst to my sisters and myself, her and this woman had a falling out. And one day my sisters and I were coming home on the school bus, being dropped off in front of this woman's house. And when we got off the school bus, all of our stuff was on the driveway. This woman told us that we couldn't go in her house. We couldn't go back inside her house, that she had everything of ours on the driveway, and that she had called our uncle for him to come pick us up. But we were no longer staying at our house anymore. And this was all because of a fight or whatever it was, some disagreement or whatever it was between her and my mother. But you have to understand, at that age, 15 years old or so, to come home from school and to see all your stuff on the driveway, you know how embarrassing that was? It was so embarrassing. It was very embarrassing. And and to not know the reason why. You know, we were so in the dark, you know, we didn't understand what was going on. So, you know, eventually my uncle did come pick us up, and we moved in with my uncle and his wife, and we stayed with him in his 1-bedroom apartment, in his living room for a while, until my mom could find a place that she could afford to for us. And she did eventually find a 2-bedroom apartment, and we moved in there with her. And this is when a lot of things take a turn. So my mother finally got her first car, and she was excited about that. So this is where I kind of say, you know, things kind of took a turn. My mother has always said like smart remarks about people. One thing that she always does is she always talks about people. And I don't know if it's her way of conversation or what, but growing up, it was always something that she did. Was she's always talked about people, how they dress, how they look, how they talk, everything. So we heard a lot of that coming from her growing up, you know. And a lot of the times she would always talk, I just hate to say the word, but she, you know, she's just, you know, racist, you know. Even though she grew up in a black household, her father, her mother were black, she always had something to say. And she, don't get me wrong, she talked about everybody, but when it came to black people in general, she was always making comments. And we were always subjected to this growing up. It started to take its toll on us in our teenage years, because we kind of got fed up with it. She's a negative person, so like I said in the previous video, it was nothing ever positive, so she's just automatically a negative person. So growing up in our you know, teenage years, it was always comments being made about our friends, the people that we hung around, especially if they were black. So, which is all we hung around. It was who we were, it's who we are. So it's it's all the friends that we had. So there was a couple of people that, you know, we befriended that weren't black. And you could automatically tell the difference in my mother and how she would act. I'm giving you a little bit of color before I get into certain stories, just so that you know where I'm coming from. When we moved into this apartment, it started to get to a point to where we clashed a lot with her. She was always verbally saying something that, of course, us as teenage girls, anybody who knows who has raised teenage girls, you already know how mouthy we can be, and you know, our attitudes, our hormones are going, you know. So first and foremost, I'll say that first, you know, there's 4 women in a home. It's automatically going to be some tension here, especially teenage daughters and a mother. But to have teenage daughters and to have a mother that has the certain attributes and characteristics that she holds does not mesh well at all. And you know, my mother is very headstrong. She's very aggressive, like I said before. She's very assertive. And you know, to a point, my sisters and myself are as well. I'm not going to deny that fact. I am very outspoken. I am now. I wasn't growing up just because of the way I was raised and in fear of speaking and standing my ground. But now, you know, coming into who I am, and especially when you get to a point to where you are not taking anything from anybody, it is how my sisters and I are. So we do kind of get that from her. But at the time growing up, she was always making smart remarks about either to us and about the people that we hung around. We were also very fed up with her way of thinking and acting towards, you know, our friends, and having these racist remarks all the time. And to sit here and we would say, you know, she's a black woman hating on black people, that means you hate yourself, you know. We would have these conversations behind closed doors, and we would be so upset and we'd be so angry, but afraid to tell her that, you know, and afraid to express that to her, just because of the reaction we know she was going to give us, you know. It was always negative, always yelling, hitting, whatever it was. It was that. If we talked back or if we said anything that was opposite of what she was saying, we couldn't express how we felt. We as teenage girls, we could never go to her and speak to her about anything. Either we were afraid to do it, or we knew there was no point in doing it, because she's set in her ways and she would never see a different way of seeing things if we came to her about anything. So starting a new school again, moving into this other home, we had to switch schools again. So starting this new school, we started to make a lot of friends. And of course, you know, us being girls, we started to get a lot of, you know, male attention from the boys. And my mom did not, she didn't like it. And when I'm saying not like it, because no parent likes to see male attention, you know, given to your daughters or anything like that. But what I'm saying is she didn't like us getting the attention at all. And what I'm saying is, I don't want to like insinuate. I'm trying to figure out a good way to put it without sounding a certain type of way. It was more like a jealous vibe, if you get what I'm saying. She wouldn't like when people called the house for us. She would always ask us why the phone is ringing nonstop. But it was in a way, I don't know how to express it. It wasn't in a way to where she was angry about the crowd that we were. It was a jealous vibe, if you get what I'm saying. And even we hung around a lot of female girls, so like we had female friendships, and she would look at them. We were to the point where we didn't want to bring our friends over to our house to even visit our mother, because the look that she would give them, because they were black, or the way they talked, or the way they dressed, or the way she would talk about them. Why do you hang around that girl? Why she do this? Why she, you know, it was always something like that. But if we had a white friend or a Hispanic friend or something like that, oh, you know, she liked them, bring them to the house, and it was always a different attitude. And I don't think a lot of you guys would, if you don't or haven't grown up in a household like that, or have a parent that is that way, you're not going to get what I'm saying. But you could automatically see the different reaction with her, with different people that we hung with and associated with. it took its toll on us. We didn't like it. We were embarrassed to have people at the house. She would treat our friends rude, and it was to the point to where a lot of the people that we were friends with didn't even want to come to our house because they were afraid of her. They didn't like her. Literally, I can tell you right now that people in our school that we went to school with, they would literally call my mom crazy, like the crazy mom. Like, nobody wanted to come to her house or see her. It was that bad. So we were always going to their house. We never really brought anybody to our house while she was there, let's just say. My mom started to date again. And she started to date a lot of white men. Now, you have to understand, first off, dating while you're a single parent with children is already hard. Dating while you're a single parent with teenage children, that's very, very hard, because, you know, a lot of the times the children don't like who you date or who you bring around. They're very either territorial, or they just don't like the person because they're already used to the parent that they already have, you know. My mom started to date these white men, and I say it that way just because we didn't grow up around white people. And I'm just going to be very blunt and honest. My family's black. You know, I consider myself a black woman, so yes, I'm Puerto Rican. My father's Puerto Rican, but I do know where I come from. I know where my family comes from. And in no way am I against interracial relationships or anything like that. You know, everybody has their own preference. I do have a stance on where I stand in that. And, you know, just being and growing up in a situation where a mother is openly racist against her own people, and to have her bring a white man into the home, knowing her viewpoints on certain people, it already triggered us, me and my sisters. So we were already on guard. We were already angry, and we were already upset. And these men that she decided to date did eventually make remarks regarding race, and it really angered us. And this is not what we did not want to be subjected to somebody that she brought into the home with her already feeling the way she already felt, and it being backed by somebody else that we didn't know nor did we like. I'm going to end this video here because the next video I will get into the whole, from my point of view as a child, looking into the whole dating world of a parent bringing in different men, and that gets a little interesting. So I am going to stop this video here, and thank you for listening, and I will let you guys go, and I hope you guys have a good week, and I will send you all love and light.